I know.
Okay. Welcome back to From the Fabricator, the podcast. We are back at it again this month, and it's a very, very special edition. I'll get to that in a moment. But this podcast is brought to you by Glass Build America, the ultimate show in North America for the glass and glazing and fenestration space. It happens October 18th to the 20th, and you can attend at no charge as a guest of mine by using the code MAXPOD, 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 and you can attend Glass Build America, the floor, which is loaded with some unbelievable exhibitors from all over the world. You can be there October 18th to the 20th. Glass Build America. Learn more at glassbuild.com. Use MAXPOD has your code, and you will be good to go. All right, so I look forward to seeing you there. So this month, as I mentioned earlier, a little different. It's one podcast focused on one company. I made the trek to Missouri and visited with the gang from Quaker Window. Saw the facility. It was incredible. Met the people. Amazing. Just a tremendous experience all the way around. Class acts, and just really kind of an uplifting experience when it comes to seeing what we can do in this industry and seeing how some of the window side of things work, both commercial and residential, both aluminum and vinyl, and also some protrusions and some other things. Just a very solid experience. And so I've got a few interviews from some of the movers and shakers from that organization. Interesting people who are somewhat lifers in our world, which I like, and still kind of young or look young. Whatever in the water in Missouri works for these folks. So without further ado, we're going to kick it off with Josh Wignall from Quaker and go from there. Thanks for listening. Josh Wignall, who is the Director of Commercial Sales and Marketing, correct? Here at Quaker. Great guy who I've known for a long time and fantastic at what he does, and going to take a little bit of time to get to know him and also talk a little bit more about one part of this incredible facility here in Missouri with Quaker. So thank you so much for doing the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
It's an honor. This is the first for me doing a podcast on site, and I'm thrilled to be here. The hospitality has been amazing, and so I thank you for that. I've known you in this industry for a while, but now over these last couple of days that I've spent with you, I've gotten to know you a little bit better. But for the audience, your past is pretty amazing. I mean, you are somebody who came into this industry and took it really by storm. Talk about how you got, you grew up kind of in this industry in a way. How did you get in the glass and window industry?
Yeah, well, so it all happened by kind of happenstance. So I was going to school in a place called Pella, Iowa. Mm-hmm. So there was a small Division III school I played soccer at. And so that's actually what introduced me to the window side is, I saw by living in the community what Pella was doing.
Right.
And so whenever I was looking to graduate, it really came down to two paths. I was either going to travel the world,
right,
take some sabbatical time, or I was going to find a job. And I found Pella, went and interviewed, and started off in operations. So I worked on second shift and managed a screen line, which we kind of talked about, and that's kind of where I got into the window business. Is really more by happenstance. But once I got into it, for me, I found that I looked at the world a little bit differently. Yeah. Where before I looked through windows, and now I tend to look both through and at.
You caught the fever. Yeah.
And so wherever I travel, I love the fact that my work kind of follows me wherever I go. My kids probably drive me crazy, but I'll go to a hotel. I'll go.
That's what we all do.
To a school, to an office. I'm always looking at the glass. I'm always looking at the framing, and I'm a big history nerd. So I love the historical aspect of it. Taking something that has been an iconic symbol in a community, in a city, and being able to restore it back to life and bring new life is pretty cool too. So.
Absolutely. No, and kudos. So you were Pella. You obviously when you're in a city like Pella, Iowa, you end up at Pella on the window side, and then you spent some time at EFCO. And now, you're here at Quaker. You've been here how long?
I've been here for, it's hard to believe, a year and a half now.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, so it came February of 2021.
Gotcha.
After 15 years with Pella and EFCO side, and kind of came back over to Middle Missouri. So, while it's still kind of close to my roots as far as culture goes, the layout, the people, kind of being at the Quaker side, kind of brought me back to my original roots of kind of the family-owned company. And it's been just fantastic.
And we're going to talk about Quaker in so much detail, but I have to ask, I mean, your first impression of when you maybe interviewed at Quaker, I'm curious because my first impression when I walked into the first facilities was, holy Moses, this is unbelievable. What was your impression?
I'd heard of Quaker through my past life, and so I knew a little bit about them, but I have to admit it was a shock. It was a shock to my system. Just the pure depth and scope of not only the product offering, but I think that sometimes you get the idea of Middle Missouri, kind of out in the middle of nowhere. How can they potentially have anything that is of scale? And I mean, I'll tell you, the plants were they're clean. They're organized. They think about the future and the growth and invest into that. So the automation piece was probably, the part for me that stuck out of, they take this seriously and they really reinvented the window.
Yeah.
That the first time I went out onto the plant, being an old manufacturing guy, I geek out over the fact of some of the automation and the different ways you can go about creating a window and creating it better.
Yeah.
And so that was probably the biggest thing for me was just the approach was different. And I think the long-term focus was also there. That it was just really cool to see, even like this Eldon plant. When we pulled in, I couldn't believe that not only were they planning for the next phase, but they had planned out 6 more phases as part of that, and it was just really, really cool to see.
Absolutely. Me being a geek as well, I mean, I've been blown away at everything I've seen, but I have to say when you drove me up to the Eldon plant this morning, and as we came up over the hill, and then all of a sudden you see this gigantic baby blue structure. I guess I don't know if it's baby blue, royal blue. I get the blues, navy blue, whatever. It's a blue structure. And you see this thing, and it's going and going and going and going. And it's, oh my gosh. I'm like, is that it? And I knew it from seeing yesterday at the other Quaker plants, that was the color and that was the style, and it was so impressive. So, and then we walked that facility today, which was neat. So, all right, so you come here, you settle in. The interesting thing I've seen is the culture. Walking the floor, people are in great moods. There's definitely a different sort of vibe that I've picked up here. I assume you noticed that right away?
Oh yeah, and I think for me it comes back to that family-owned, family value. One of the first conversations I had with Quaker was really they hire for life, and they mean that. And so their philosophy on hiring is it's more of a family approach, and they do what they say and say what they do, and I think for me that was critical. So that culture piece of even coming in as a lot of different experiences in the window side, that sometimes you come into an organization that's been established for over 70 years, and it can be a challenge to bring in new ideas. And I'd say that if anything, everyone at Quaker is just wanting to learn and wanting to continue to do the best for the customer.
Sure.
And so that piece also helps from an innovation standpoint, that we're not scared to try something new,
right.
Or to do something differently just because we've done it certainly in the past.
Sure. So let's talk about the product lines, and that's where I found, again, a lot of interest, because there's misconceptions out there that Quaker's just a residential window guy, or Quaker might be just a historical guy or company, sort of thing, focus. But there's so much more here, and so. I guess let's walk a little bit through the product lines, and because you have the residential side, you have the commercial side, and then you have quartz, which is a whole nother thing. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about what separates this from everything else, because I do think that the audience is similar to me. Of there are people who use Quaker in a certain mindset and may not realize there's other things. So and I know that I have a small audience that pays attention to the residential side, but the residential, I mean, Quaker's a player in that side. And so talk about the products that are available on that side.
Yeah, I mean, so from the residential side, you have the traditional wood, aluminum clad wood sort of product, and that's obviously a staple of the residential team.
Right.
And we continue to see that. People like the warmth of the wood in their homes. Yeah. But another big piece that we continue to see grow is the vinyl side. Obviously with vinyl you get some really good thermal performance. And it, from a cost-effective standpoint, it does, tend to kind of check those boxes as well. So, we have a full, array of products both on the wood as well as the vinyl side.
Right.
But really, what we've seen on the luxury piece of our business, which is the quartz,
right,
is really starting to see a lot more of the aluminum products that are coming into that because of just the size that some of those luxury homes are requiring. Just aren't conducive to the materials of wood and vinyl. So, we're able to use some of the technologies that we use on the commercial side of the business with some AW rated products that, are meant to withstand some very large, wind loads, and be able to do some just spectacular luxury sort of homes. So, I think it's been a really nice kind of pairing to where we can use both technology we've learned in residential and be able to apply it to some things that work on the commercial side, but then vice versa, take some of those lessons learned on the commercial side and apply them to especially that high-end luxury piece. Yeah. So product-wise, we have array of the vinyl, the wood, and I'd say within the aluminum piece, we have kind of the traditional, all thermally broken, kind of the good version, where it's more economically based. All the way up to our C600 on the commercial side, which has the new Core technology, which is kind of that Azo Core, different fill that is just completely different. At least here in the U.S., one of the first it's been applied, and the performance of that product
spectacular
is just it's hard to even fathom, and so it's really allowed us to get into certain markets that are looking for that thermal performance, but still want the quality and really the structural integrity, to be able to meet some of the commercial demands that we see. So, I think for me, one of the coolest products that I saw was that mix between what we call our W600, which is, it's got the same face as our C600, which is all aluminum, and AW100, but we were able to apply some of the things that we learned on the residential side and actually apply real wood to the interior, which just gives a really warm feeling, but it has an AW100, so you can just get magnificent heights and sizes, but be able to have that warmth of the wood on the inside, I think is just a different, it's not meant for every project, but I'll tell you, the ones that it looks spectacular.
Absolutely. And so I'm with Josh Wignall, who is the Director of Commercial Sales and Marketing at Quaker. You can find them online at www.quakercommercialwindows.com. It's one of a few websites that you have going on. And I have to ask you about the website. You're a marketing guy. That's how I got to know you, is from marketing side. These websites are impressive. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears on those bad boys.
Oh man, I'll tell you, our team does a fantastic job. I mean, really, just once again, kind of like with the rest of the company, forward thinking. Really trying to just look ahead and say, who's our audience? Who are we trying to talk to? So for us, it's all about, how do we relay our message and, what we're doing for the future. And I think our website just does a fantastic job of just showing the innovation, the forward-looking thought that goes into what we're doing. And, we're not just looking at next year, the year after that. We're looking 10, 20 years out. And I think that website does a nice job of showing that.
No doubt. So it's QuakerCommercialWindows.com is the website, and I give you a lot of credit because as somebody who's worked on a lot of websites and had to deal with they are challenges, to say the least. And you did not spare any extra sweat. I mean, you put it all into that thing, and you and your team, kudos to you on that one.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it turned out fantastic, and we're just excited to be able to better show what it is that we do, because it's hard to believe it if you don't see it. And that's the key.
That's true. And as I get to interview a couple of the other guys here, I'm going to ask about some of the other things on the floor and some of the things that are here that people don't realize that are here. But now I got a fun question for you. Okay. I always ask everybody. It started this year and it's gone really well. I have to ask a fun question. And I got to find out that you had a little bit of a singing background in your life. You've got that great set of pipes, the voice. Favorite song of all time? What's your go-to song?
Ooh, oh my goodness. I do like to sing, although you'd ask my wife and kids, I'm not sure if they like it as much, but probably favorite song. So I'm kind of an old soul by heart.
Okay.
So one of my favorite concerts I ever went to, I went to Eric Clapton in Newcastle, England.
So you saw Eric Clapton in England.
I did.
So that's already something that's pretty impressive.
So I'm a huge Clapton fan.
Okay. Going back to the Cream days as well.
Yeah, and so, like the Layla, I love the old school Layla.
Such an intense song, such an intense.
And so that's, not that I don't think I could probably sing that song, but I love to listen to the old Clapton just in general. Some of his acoustic stuff. That's probably it.
All right. Yeah. Again, great choice. And Layla is obviously one of the classics of all time, and Clapton is amazing. And so you saw him over in the homeland there. So
yeah, back in 2004, so it was a while ago, but. Yeah, still good.
All right, that works. I like that. And those who know me, I love Fleetwood Mac. I've talked about that on the blog. I'm a big Journey guy, and I know you've gotten a kick out of the fact that later in August I'm going to see Motley Crue in concert in LA, along with Def Leppard and Joan Jett and Poison. So I'm going to let the hair grow out for that one. Hair metal at its finest. Absolutely. All right, so back to the serious stuff. You are an industry guy from the standpoint of you've been very involved with AMA and now FGIA. What got you into that? Because I know that volunteering is, in my opinion, kind of an acquired taste. Some people love it. Some people do it because they feel like they have to. Some people are doing it because their company pushes them into it. How did you get into volunteering and then really take it and run with it? Because I look at you as somebody, you seem to me really enjoy it. You might say, no, I do it because I'm told I have to do it. But what your thoughts on the whole volunteering aspect?
Yeah, well, I mean, I got into FGIA through FGO at the time, and my boss had said, hey, I think this would be a good opportunity for you to learn more about the industry. I'd kind of I transitioned from operations where I was very silo-based. I didn't get outside of my own world very often, and kind of knew my space, but not really much about the industry. And so when I came on to the marketing side, that was one of the asks was to go see FGIA. And so, it was probably 8 or 9 years ago, I went to the first one. And, I have to admit, the first meeting, I was a little overwhelmed because there's so much going on. And, but what I found and what I really enjoyed about it was the camaraderie. You have the entire organization and industry coming together to focus on the betterment of the industry.
Right.
So you sit right next to competition, to suppliers, upstream, downstream, and I love the workmanship together for a better cause. So I love to do volunteering stuff in my free time, outside anyways, and so this just really kind of matched that. And I've always found that if you're going to do something and spend time away, I love to just put in all of me into that.
Sure.
And so that's kind of the way I jumped into FGIA is, it was overwhelming at first, but, if I was going to take the time and to go, I wanted to make sure that, that I put in 100% of my effort and got as involved as I could, because I saw the value that it created for the industry. And really that, all organizations I've kind of seen throughout time is, they're slowly dying as folks, retire and move on. And I think our generation needs to start stepping in and taking, some of that ownership.
Well, that's a big question. How do we attract that younger generation? I mean, you in my opinion, are in that younger generation, because I think you're still under 40.
Yes,
and
close.
But we are struggling with the standpoint of trying to get younger folks in here. What thoughts do you have on trying to get that younger generation in?
It's a challenge. I know within FGIA we've been trying to address it through, we have the onboarding task group where we really tried to help streamline when people come on, how do they get on board faster, because that's typically when most people show up, they get shocked to their system and they don't ever want to go back.
Right.
So that's one way, and we also started mentorship programs. And then I think just in general as an industry, some of the apprenticeship programs that are really starting, with some of the state tech schools.
Right.
I think those are going to be critical because as we see colleges and universities continue to raise, from a price standpoint.
Right.
The only thing that may help would just be potentially those who are looking for an alternative path, and those apprenticeships I think are a great way, for folks that maybe don't see college as the route for them.
Sure.
But this industry is one that every building needs windows.
It does.
And so it's not one that we can expect to just go away tomorrow.
Right.
It's not something to be replaced by technology right now. So I think that's the great part is the longevity's there, and so putting some more apprenticeships and trying to start early, I think is probably got to be the key.
Well, kudos, and we got to keep pushing that. A couple more questions, because I know you're busy and you want to get me out of your hair. So, talk about the trends that you're seeing. What's the hot thing right now at Quaker, and those trends in the marketplace?
I from a trend standpoint, I think one that's been on my radar for a while, and I think that really matches for us at Quaker is the historical renovation trend. We continue to see buildings that were built before 1980 and haven't had any sort of replacement of their windows. Really before any low E or IG sort of glass. Those buildings really need to get re-updated.
Yeah.
And so a lot of those have some historical context.
Right.
And so, for me, I'm excited about, what that's going to bring as far as just, revitalizing life back into those buildings. And some of the products that we've just rolled out, so our H450 and H650, which are historical-based products, I think are exciting for me because in the past, you always looked at historical projects and, really you had to trade sight lines for performance. So if you wanted to meet your historical sight lines to make them look like maybe a steel window, it meant that you may have to use a non-thermal window, and therefore, the performance of that building is still going to struggle. With some of the new technology that's out, we're able to still match those sight lines, but without really sacrificing that thermal performance. And I think that's going to be critical for some of those old buildings as we look towards trying to make sure that those buildings perform to the most efficient values that they can.
Perfect. And so how's 2023 looking for Quaker and beyond? I mean, I know that we're in this crazy time period of, are we in a recession? Are we not in a recession, depending on how you want to define it? But how's 2023 and beyond looking for you and the Quaker team?
I think we're positioned well. So I think from our perspective, you can see behind us here. We just opened up 250,000 extra square feet.
So it brings it to 500,000
total.
Up to
500,000
right
here.
Right.
Yeah, which is for us on the commercial side, it's going to be great because we continue to see growth, even as things slow down. I think the opportunity across the nation still looks very bright for us, and so for us being able to have the capacity, the equipment all in one place is going to be invaluable just to make sure that we can service customers.
Yes.
All through one place, and so I think 2023 looks great for us. So it's exciting to kind of see where we're going, and obviously who knows what's going to happen with supply chains and some of this pricing. But at the end of the day, we're positioned well to be able to tackle any of those that may come.
And I think that I think is the big thing, is that companies that are organized and diverse can handle pretty much anything that's thrown at them. And I think you check both of those boxes here. I mean, you guys are extremely organized, and then the diversity of being in residential, being in commercial, and being up and down those levels, I think that gives you a little bit of a cushion to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely, it does.
Awesome. Well, I'm thrilled. Josh Wignall, Director of Commercial Sales and Marketing at Quaker. You can find them online, QuakerCommercialWindows.com. And thank you for taking the time on being here, and look forward to having you on again and keeping in touch with you. I'm honored you gave me the time. This is awesome.
Well, we're honored that you came and visited. So thank you for having us.
Thank you. All right. So we continue on this tour of Quaker. I am thrilled to have Dusty Fick, Commercial Sales Manager, with me. I got to meet you at BEC for the first time, and then when I saw you the other day, I completely forgot I met you at BEC, so I apologize.
You meet a lot of people.
My brain is mush. My kids make fun of me that my brain is mush, and wait till I tell them that I completely forgot meeting you. You're too good of a personality for me to forget, so I apologize. So Dusty, thank you for doing the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You can find, like I mentioned previously, you can find them online, QuakerCommercialWindows.com. Let's talk about you first off. You're a lifer, right?
Yeah.
You started here out of school. Talk about how you ended up at Quaker, in the beginning.
Yeah, so I actually, grew up, locally around Quaker. I grew up about 5 miles from the plant, and so as I moved away for a short time to go to college,
right?
Figured out that wasn't the avenue for me, and moved. Really wanted to get back into Central Missouri, where I was, born and raised, and Quaker, presented a great opportunity to come in and actually started, on the shop floor
right.
for the first probably year I was here,
right.
before moving into some estimating and project management duties. So I've been here 17 years now, and it's been exciting to see all the growth over the course of those 17 years.
Absolutely, yeah, and you've seen a ton of growth just in the Quaker building. So yesterday you took me through a handful of buildings, that were spread out over a couple miles, I guess you would say.
It feels like it sometimes.
But that has to blow you away. You're sitting back now. Right now we're sitting in the middle of a 500,000 square foot state of the art facility. But 17 years ago it was nowhere close to that. But you were kind of on that path. You've got to look back and be like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I actually sat down probably a couple months ago and tried counting the number of buildings we've built since
right.
I've started, and I think it was 6 or 7 buildings all around that 180 to 200,000 square foot, so over 1 million square feet of manufacturing just in the last 17 years, which is it's amazing.
Yeah. It really is, and it's impressive. It's almost like I don't want to say a sleeping giant thing, because nobody here is sleeping, but yet you've grown almost under the radar in a way. So
yeah, when we brought Josh on, I think Josh's comment was, the best kept secret in the industry is the dumbest marketing we can have. So we're starting to get our name out there, recognized, and you can see the continued growth coming. So
awesome. We're going to keep that rolling. And I talked with Josh, and he broke down all the product lines. And what I wanted to get from him was, okay, the residential line, the commercial line, the quartz line. You're in the commercial side.
Correct.
Talk to me about the commercial side and what makes, in your opinion, Quaker different, because now you've had 17 years, you've worked at all different parts of this, and you go out on the road. What separates Quaker from everyone else in your opinion?
I think the biggest separator is, and we've talked about over the last couple of days, the transition from residential to commercial, and how we make it all under one roof, and we can, as costs of buildings continue to escalate, materials start to escalate. Quaker's in a unique position that we can look at a building and offer potentially some unique value engineered items that other companies can't. We do it all under one roof, and we don't have a reason to push one or the other. We want to make sure that we're getting the right solution for the building. So if our commercial vinyl line isn't correct for the building, we're not going to promote it. But if there is a possibility, we can VE down from maybe that aluminum option to give the owner a less expensive product. So.
Does commercial vinyl still blow you away? Because it blows me away.
It does.
I still can't get used to the words commercial and vinyl being in the same combination together.
We were probably resistant, to it for the longest time, but it is creeping into the commercial market space, in that 6 to 10 story application where, 15 years ago that was traditionally all aluminum. So, it's adapter or die, and Quaker's, continues to be, I think, on the leading edge of innovation with the commercial vinyl that we're rolling out. It's true CW rated products.
And it also doesn't look like a traditional vinyl. That's the other thing I noticed today, at least, both today and yesterday walking the floor, and when you stopped and said, here, look at this is the commercial vinyl, from afar it didn't look like vinyl.
Yeah, the different things that we're able to do with 1-inch IGs in our commercial vinyl, flatter, more modern profiles, they're actually, aesthetic-wise interchangeable with some of our aluminum. They're designed around some of the same features. So, between the colored or laminate exteriors, you can have a vinyl product that looks like aluminum.
I'm still blown away that because it's funny. I remember it was an NFRC meeting, and I remember it's probably 2004, 2005. So it's so long ago that there was somebody in the meeting saying, vinyl will be used in 10-story commercial buildings. And I said, oh my gosh, no way. And now here, I probably saw jobs out on that floor that are going into.
Yeah, the biggest, I think, struggle within the industry is knowing when to use vinyl and when not to. And obviously, with you being an industry guy, knowing the FGIA and the old AMA ratings, the difference between R-rated, LC-rated, and CW-rated vinyl, or even AW, and where the correct applications for those products are, and that's probably the thing that the industry is still struggling with, right now, getting the right specifications, getting the right products put into that.
Gotcha. Okay, so fun question time for you.
Okay.
All right, I found out that you are a baseball player. We're a baseball player, a great baseball player too. It's tremendous.
Yeah,
I think you told me something like Hall of Fame level baseball player, and then you blew out your arm or something. I'm not sure exact. So, all right, so baseball favorite all-time baseball player. Who's your go-to? Who is the all-time favorite baseball player of Dusty Fick?
So whenever I was, it's probably a weird answer, but as a child, my favorite baseball player, and I'm a Cardinals fan, so I always followed the Cardinals, was actually Tom Pagnozzi. He was a catcher for the Cardinals.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so probably not a very well-known name, but growing up as a child, he was, and I was a catcher. I always caught. So he was actually my favorite ball player growing up.
Nice,
so.
Nice. Okay, I'll give that to you. Now I'm surprised. Any relation to Bob Fick or Robert Fick, who played for the Tigers?
Well, he's my dad, but not the one that played for the Tigers.
Oh no! You almost threw me there for a second. Because Robert Fick, who played for the
Tigers,
Tigers, hit the last home run in Tiger Stadium.
In Tiger Stadium, yeah.
Yes,
and no relation that I know of. So
okay, close on the last name, so I like it. Right. I like it. Very, very cool. So all right. So for me, I grew up in Pittsburgh. Willie Stargell. For me, and my brother. Who is a huge sports fan. My brother would tell you Roberto Clemente all day long, but for me it was Willie Stargell, from the '70s.
Sure.
And I like the Pags question. You could have hit me with Tommy Herr or Ken Oberkfell, but Tom Pagnozzi, that works. All right. So back to the serious stuff. Let's talk about Azo Core and. Again, this is another remembrance of for me. Patrick Musig from Azon had told me, wait till you see what Quaker is doing with this product. Obviously, that's a game changer for you guys. Talk about why your relationship with Azon and what you're putting into your windows really sets them apart.
Yeah, Azon has been a great partner from us on it, as a pour and to bridge company, and not only utilizing it in the past and our more traditional products, but with Azo Core bringing it over and really introducing it to us, and from there letting it grow into our other product families. We have the Core that was kind of our first initial run at, which is on the leading edge thermally in the industry for architecture rated aluminum, but taking that and transforming it into hung windows and maybe some more traditional type products that and figuring out how to utilize it to drive U values down. We all know that energy values are going to continue to be driven down, and we've got to satisfy it, in the marketplace. And they've been a great partner for us. And
so you're talking, you have R values that are not really seen in a lot of cases because of this.
Yeah, we're especially with the C600 product, our OptiCore line, able to achieve U values and R values that are competing with vinyl on the thermal performance, using in passive house applications. Typically not an arena that you see very many aluminum windows playing, but so the ability to do larger buildings, larger sizes, and still try to get those owners those passive house requirements.
Awesome. I'm with Dusty Fick, commercial sales manager at Quaker. Find them online at QuakerCommercialWindows.com. This is our special kind of Quaker-centric podcast for me, and I'm thrilled. The hospitality, you guys have been absolutely awesome. I really, really appreciate it. A question might be a tough one off the top of your head, but what's your favorite project? I sat down this morning and I saw a bunch of them. Saw a couple in Chicago that blew my mind. But what for you is the Dusty Fick project that you're like, yeah, this is it?
My wife, there's a lot of them as I've done over the years, but my wife always gets aggravated. We drive through cities like St. Louis, and I point up a building and say, we did that one, I did that one.
You're not in the glass business if you don't do that.
But probably one of my favorite, and it was a challenge. I love historical projects, renovation, retrofit, and the Crosstown Concourse in Memphis, which I handled at the time from cradle to grave, and
that's like a multi-tenant but multi-use area, correct?
multi-use area. I know when they constructed it, it was actually like its own community. It had, a school in it, a doctor's office, some hospitals, apartment living, a lot of retail, but over 3,000 windows on, all historically accurate, steel replica that we did actually with our H600 at the time, and simulating the old industrial sash. It was a challenging project, but in the end it turned out great. That's probably one that I go back to quite a bit.
Nice. I like that choice, and I saw a picture of that one actually this morning. That's the only reason I knew that it was the kind of the multi-use, because I had seen it as we were kind of learning about Quaker. So that's been really cool. Talking just a little bit more about the Quaker approach to things. Sophisticated projects seem to be the things that kind of maybe drive you a little bit more. Is that just because of the way you're set up here, or you prefer those? But it's because it just seems to me like you guys don't take. I'm sure you do take on bread and butter.
Yeah.
But it just seems to me like everything that I'm seeing is like, well, this one was really hard because of X, and this one was hard because of Y.
Well, and again, being here 17 years, I think, even when I started, we never wanted to be the company that said no. We wanted to see, how can we find a way to do it, and that has helped us get into some of the more difficult projects. Our niche, coming from the historical market and taking on those complex ones. I think everyone here enjoys that just because it's different. It's different from the mundane. We love. Don't get me wrong. We love the jobs that are 400 windows the same size.
Yes.
But so any little bit about that. We've got a lot of guys in our project management and our estimating teams that have been here 10, 15, 20 years. So they get it. They enjoy doing those historical projects and the more complex ones too. So.
Nice. So a couple more questions. I'm with Dusty Fick, commercial sales manager, Quaker. Quaker Windows, Quaker Commercial, QuakerCommercialWindows.com is the website. I have to ask you, this BEC was your first BEC?
It was.
Your thoughts on it?
I loved it. I thought it was a great venue. Very well attended in Nashville. We had some great traffic by the booth. We actually came out with, I would say, probably 20 to 30 solid leads out of it, and made some great contact. It's always great to network with other companies that are in the industry, maybe not necessarily that manufacture windows, but different building envelopes, and getting to just discuss different personnel, different ways to sell and approach different markets. So it was a great event.
Wonderful. Well, I like to hear that, because I thought it was your first time, and so obviously it's one of my babies in life. I live for that event, and so it makes my day that you had a good experience there.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts? We heard from Josh earlier about the future, very bullish. I assume you're feeling the same way. I know you're, where he's at and sitting in his perch. You've got a different perch, and I'm going to have Chris on next, and he's in a different perch. How are you feeling? What are you seeing?
Well, we're excited with the growth that we've had here at Quaker. Obviously, our ownership and our leadership team are preparing us for the future and that future growth as we continue to add buildings and some very what I would call industry horsepower as far as our manufacturing management teams. Mm-hmm. The growth really, even as we look at a possible recession, we're strategically adding new representation into parts of the country that we haven't been in before. So that alone will help fuel growth, even if we see a little bit of a downturn.
Sure, that makes sense. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. I really appreciate the hospitality. Yesterday, you were the main tour guide yesterday, and you had to put up with me dragging me through these plants as I was just kind of like lost in it all. It was just so amazing. So
I enjoyed it. So I'm glad you came. Like I said, we always enjoy showing off our facilities.
Awesome. So Dusty Fick, commercial sales manager at Quaker Commercial. Catch him online at QuakerCommercialWindows.com.
Okay.
All right. So next up on the Quaker tour here in Missouri, I've got Chris Dickneite, Director of Commercial Sales at Quaker Commercial. Find him online, QuakerCommercialWindows.com. This has been a fun time, and it's been fun to get to know you. I also met you at VEC. and for some reason I kind of remembered you, so I feel bad that Dusty hates me that I did not remember him. But it was great to see you at BC. Thanks for being on the podcast and taking the time today.
Glad to be here, Max. First time.
Awesome,
Exciting.
awesome. So let's talk about your past. And that's you're another kind of lifer sort of scenario,
Right.
and so I found it kind of fascinating just because you got into it and you have grown and stayed in this world for a long time. I mean, how many years has it been?
34 years this year. So.
34 years. So what water are you drinking to look so young? Because you don't look like somebody who's worked in the glass industry for 34 years. You also have hair, good hair.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm not sure the insides look like that, but
You told, what did you say at lunch? You look good on the inside and the liver looks bad? And
life of a man in sales, pretty on the outside, liver failure on the inside.
There you go. Well, you look good. So 34 years. Out of high school, out of college, how did you?
Well, born and raised in Freeburg.
Right, which
where
is
our
the
corporate
home
office-
of.
Correct. So and if you were born and raised in Freeburg, it's a rite of passage to work a summer job at Quaker.
470 people population.
Yep, 470. And at the time, I was actually in high school, working through the summer months, and then through my senior year, worked through the summer months as well. Started to go to college, and funny story, but I worked part-time. And my immediate supervisor didn't realize I was going to college, so due to my attendance being only part-time, they let me go. And I went to the owner and I said, I've got to have a job. And he goes, well, you wouldn't know it by your attendance, but not realizing I was going to college.
Right.
He went from fired one day to moving me into the office the next day. Funny story, he said, you got to wear nice clothes into the office, so I wore my very best AC/DC t-shirt with no wrinkles in the screen print.
I love it.
Long story, long time ago.
I love it. So you started you got moved from the warehouse to the office, and you basically worked your way up at that point. So now you're a director of commercial sales. I mean, well, let's talk. What's the biggest difference that you see in this glass and window world from way back when you started to get going? And you and I are. I've been in the industry since '91, so that means you probably started in what, '88 or something. 87. All right. So for me, some of the big things that I've seen is just the speed of things. Like we would get purchase orders by mail,
Right.
And then we got fax machines, and that sped things up. I mean, now you probably have EDS that goes right into your order entry system sort of thing.
That's correct.
What are the things that you look back on and go, my gosh, it's just come such a long way?
Yeah, just, from inside the office, correct, the ability to take orders through phone and then progressing through fax, but on the road, waiting in line for a payphone.
Yeah.
Right? And you pick up the payphone and you look inside the headset, it's scary, right? But just trying to wait outside of a phone booth to get to a phone to call into the corporate office, or having a calling card, or having a beeper.
Yes.
Funny changes, but just from the shop floor changes, the amount of automation, the way we move product through the floor. From a personal company standpoint, I remember getting our first order of $100,000.
Oh, that had to be cool. You remember that.
Remembering that was a gigantic job for us to produce at the time, and now, even with recent inflation, it's not that hard to get to $100 or $100,000. But the size of the job, the way we produce the product, the way we automate, is incredibly different than what we were even 10 years ago, much less 34 years ago.
Yeah, it's changed so much. And it's funny, I remember when again, working in my family business and working with my brother, I remember when we first got our first monumental job, and that pride, but also that pressure.
Right.
But it seems like you kind of strike me as somebody who still feels the same pride and the same pressure today that you probably felt in 1988 and 1989 as you were getting going. Because you really are intense with it in a good way. With this industry and with this business.
Well, I said, from your smallest customer to your largest, everybody should be treated the same way. I always said one of the most horrible terms I ever heard in our business was account rationalization. What a horrible word, right?
Yeah.
You're supposed to appreciate all your business, but
right.
So as we grow and as we get bigger, we're continuing to try to. You appreciate all your business. You never want to rank your customers, but that's something you got to stay humbled. You got to stay appreciative of all the business you get.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that you guys have. And again, that's what's been really, really impressive with my time here. I mentioned it earlier in my interview with Josh, was the culture you could feel. And have you seen a difference in the culture, or does it still feel the same way, 30 plus years later?
Well, I think I probably recognize the culture more because
you appreciate it more.
Yeah, we appreciate it because we've seen a lot of outside strong talent come into our business. Josh just earlier on the Wignal, and understanding what a day in their life was in a past culture, it makes us appreciate the culture. As you go through a company that's going through a merger or an acquisition and kind of the unstableness of that, we've been fortunate to have a very stable culture at Quaker, a great family-owned company, great leadership, and it really, you never want to take that for granted. So the culture has been a fortunate thing that I've had through most of my career.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I'm with Chris Dickneite, the Director of Commercial Sales at Quaker. QuakerCommercialWindows.com is the website. I've talked products, and I'm curious with your opinion on what your favorite product line is here, because I think it's like you're almost trying to name who your favorite kid is, and that's always impossible. But what's your favorite product line? I mean, because you've got a few to choose from, obviously.
Well, I've worked on the sales arm of the business most of my career, and I've said this in our inner circles, but a lot of the industry, we would go present Me Too products. In other words, Brand X has it, and Me Too, right? So, but it's really exciting to come out with a new trend-setting product, and I think the company in whole, we're starting to do so much more in, not Me Too products. We're building products that are trend-setting products, so they're better than what the market has available to them. They actually, not only meet new energy codes, they exceed them even before those energy codes are brought out. So products like the C600, also known as our Core, that platform was incredibly, taking advanced pour into bridge technologies, which in some eyes were passe, and actually having a product that meets and exceeds strutted products or Technoform type products where they have struts and I values. So it's really exciting promoting a product like that as a trend-setting, market-leading product.
Yeah, that's a game changer for sure, game changer. And I think that's one of the things that you guys recognized, that you needed to have something like that, and you recognized it and you put it into play. And it was kind of a ballsy move because there was nobody else doing anything like that.
Right.
So kudos to you. You talk about putting yourselves out there. That was intense. Did you feel any nervousness? I mean, when you were kind of developing that whole product line of, are we sure we want to go down this path?
Right. It definitely was a little bit nervous because we could see the market and a few of the competition developing strutted platform products, mill and crimp products. And our concern was that is that technology going to overtake the industry? But when we've seen that the strutted systems could only perform to X value, and we feel like we can meet it with a lower cost product. We meeting the same thermal performance, lower cost, obviously technology that we were already used to. A lot of pluses to that. But then actually developing it to the point where it could exceed a lot of the strutted systems that are out there was even more exciting. And then bringing that product to market at a cost more in line with the owner's budgets, it's good to know that all of our thoughts and ideas and our engineering team's vision, came to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And kudos to you guys. So, fun question time for you. All right. So you're probably sitting back. You got to watch Josh's. You got to watch Dusty's. You're probably thinking, is he going to ask me music? He's going to ask me sports. Now, you were a little bit off the beaten path a little bit. So if you had the opportunity to have dinner with somebody dead or alive, a dinner, one or two people could, who would that be? Who would be your pool, your all-time must? Like if you had that opportunity to have dinner with somebody, who would that be? Who?
Yeah, it would definitely probably be a family member. Yeah,
I had a feeling because mine is. So I had a feeling.
If I had to go back through my family tree, there's a couple people that I probably didn't appreciate them as much when they were here, and then knowing more about them after they're gone, it's kind of the woulda, coulda, shouldas. But definitely would be a family member. I would probably go with my grandfather or grandmother, either one.
Yeah.
One of these days I'll see them again, but until then, right, I've got to wait.
Exactly. So, and I think it's funny that because you can go in so many different directions, and I mean, I know that there's, that people, would want to do, famous people, pick their brains, historical figures. Josh is the big history buff, so if I asked him that question, I can only imagine his answer on that one. So, because he knows history so well, but. For me, it's the same way. It would be my dad and my grandfather. I never met my grandfather. I'm named after him. And supposedly he had a legendary effect in this industry, and I'd love to, be able to pick his brain. And then, with my dad, I probably didn't appreciate him when he was alive the way that I should have. My brother did. I didn't. I was a bad kid. So my brother's the good kid. Definitely. I was 10 years younger than my brother, 12 than my sister. I was a mistake. There's no doubt about that. People don't have kids. I mean, I know you have 6 kids. You know, people don't, back in the 60s, you know, if there was a 14-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 10-year-old, and then they have me? Come on. Yeah, that's definitely a mistake. And I like your answer. Very, very cool. Expect that. You're a class act. All right, so back to the serious stuff. One of the things and you and I talked about as we walked the floor is the testing that you do on the floor. And you're not talking just little, hey, we're going to spray a water hose at the unit. You have full-size test facilities here. Was that a must-have when the design of this new facility was coming in? And I know you also do it at the older facilities. How did that all come about that we are going to test, and we're going to test to really the most intense levels here on site?
Yeah, I mean, the industry has changed a little bit. I know, but Quaker as a company has made a big commitment to making sure our products perform in the field the way they're not only tested and rated, but probably about 10 years ago, we started making a lot stronger commitment to auditing the product here at the shop floor. The last place we want to find a problem, obviously, is in the field after it's installed, and then deal with the problem at that point. So, the ownership group, our leader, Kevin Blanson, made a commitment to starting the testing process. Curtis Weaver is one of our head engineers, longstanding 40-year guy with us. They said, hey, we've got to catch this and audit it strong here at Quaker, and then taking the effort not only to test it to field standards, to an AMA 502 2/3, we're going to do full pressure test, which gives us that extra insurance policy that says, hey, we're going to catch it now, we're going to make it right here, because we got to live with it when it isn't right. So, it's a big change in our attention to quality, a big change as a company in the way we want to make sure the products perform always, every time in the field the way they should. So it's not 100%, but it's definitely upped our game in the way our products perform in the field.
Definitely the attention to detail is impressive. And then just the way that the auditing process, I mean, you have a complete format for it. This is not a fly-by-night thing. And I have to assume that people who don't know about you, to me that was probably, I mean, there's 25 different impressive things I've seen over the last day here. But that really blew me away, because that's a hardcore commitment to your quality and the process. So kudos to you guys.
Yeah, it's an expensive commitment. I mean,
yeah, true. There's a lot of space on the floor that you use.
4 or 5 different labs throughout our facility. Just the cost and the regimen of testing and auditing and then recording those results every day. It's you don't get paid for it on front end, but you get paid for it on the back end. So.
When you tell architects that and you tell GCs that, are they surprised by that? Because I can't, I know other people do it, but this has to be amongst the highest level of people doing on-site testing.
Yeah, I don't know if everyone can appreciate it, but for those that have been through a problem, or have maybe felt the pain of a product not performing, and then the cost of remediating that problem, I can assure you they recognize it. Yeah. Sometimes you got to feel the pain before you recognize the value, and that's definitely the ones that recognize it more often.
Yeah, because I think the one thing that usually is an aha moment for certain certain people who don't understand our industry is that when a building is built on a commercial building, you can change out the carpet and the paint 20 times in 10, 15 years, as much as you want. You cannot change out the windows. Right. You can, but it ain't easy, and it's not. So you do not want to screw that up.
That's right.
So I do think that commitment makes a lot of sense, right out of the gate, and I think that's got to be something that opens people's eyes.
Yeah, definitely.
So I asked Dusty his favorite project. I'm curious with yours in the 30-plus years. How did that $100,000 project go? Do you remember?
I do remember it. It was, and to your point, largest project we ever had, so all eyes were on it.
Sure.
And sometimes the efforts you make on a project like that, you wish you could make them to every project down to even one window, but it went well, it finished good, and I always said it progressed us to the next level.
Right.
So I definitely remember that project. My favorite project, I'd have to think here a little bit. I could probably say,
I stumped you.
You stumped me.
It's all right.
I should have thought of that.
It's all right. You know what I'll do is that those of you watching on YouTube, I will put up a picture of his favorite project once he tells me what it is. Okay. So you have to watch on YouTube or go to QuakerCommercialWindows.com and see all the projects. So I have to ask you, and I don't know if you want to, your son is in the business.
Yes. Yep.
I mean, I assume that makes you boundful with pride that you're actually trying to help our industry by getting a youngster in our world?
Well, part of it is the enjoyment in looking at him that, but at a young age, they're like, there's no way I'm going to do what Dad does.
Right.
So there's a little bit of a moment where, Dad doesn't necessarily have the cool job, but they're starting to realize, hey, I can make a good living in this business. We kind of backed into the business, meaning he took the initial job as a side hustle, and then one day, 6 months later, he said, "I'm not so sure my side hustle isn't going to be better than my main career." So
I like it.
But long story short, he's embraced it. He seems to be learning. He's like a sponge. Definitely.
He's got the good bloodlines.
And I will tell you, just as an older guy in the industry, we all see the lack of talent, or maybe the lack of talent coming into the business. And so, I tell them your upside potential, you have no ceiling.
Yeah.
And there is no ceiling opportunity for anybody coming in at a young age. There's so much demand, not near as much talent to fulfill all that talent at an older age. And so it's the upside is sky's the limit.
That's
So
exciting.
pretty excited.
When I heard that was really exciting that he got in the industry, and obviously we want to keep that rolling. So, I've asked the others your feelings going forward. Again, you've kind of lived. Again, since you and I started at the same time, or you're a couple years ahead of me. So you've been through the various recessions. You were through the recessions around the turn of 2000, 2001. Kind of the frustration around after 9/11. Right. Obviously the mess of 2008 through 2010. You lived through that. Now we've gone. It's funny, we're not getting a breather. All of those segments that I talk about when we've had past massive issues in our world, we always caught a breather. Well, now from March 2020, we seemingly get through COVID, and then all of a sudden we've got the war in the Ukraine, we've got the recession, we're not getting any breathers. How are you feeling? Are you feeling confident like the other guys are, or are you jaded saying, we got to take our time a little bit? I'm just curious from your opinion.
Yeah, probably just incredible optimism. I still today, even after 34 years, I look at the last couple of years and get more excited about the opportunity for growth now than even I did through a lot of my career. So, and going through the downturns, I can look at it a lot calmer and less concerned. But I will say this: we met with our team just less than a week ago, and I said, the recession rumors and any kind of indicators that the next year's going to be slower. We could spend time worrying about that, or we could take initiatives now fixing it.
Nice.
So, we grabbed the bull by the horns, as Dusty mentioned. We're adding strategically some territory that we haven't been into. I still think there is a ton of market opportunity for Quaker in a lot of areas. We're still relatively an unknown. And to your point, even coming here today, being in the business 31 years, you walk in and said, I had no idea that Quaker does what they do. So that message has to be told a lot more. So, any kind of bump in the economy or downturn in the market, we still look like we control our own destiny. There's so much upside opportunity out there that we're not deterred by those rumors.
All right, so one more question for you. Trends, and then Joseph Holmes, who's one of my all-time favorite people in this industry, reminded me. So thank you, Joseph. Appreciate that. What are the trends you're seeing?
Well, there's probably two that resonate really quickly. The one is the incredible attention and push for thermal. We used to we wanted products that were structurally strong and that operated good, but the demand for higher performing thermal products is evident, especially out on the further reaches, upper Northwest, New England area, East Coast, and we're starting to see it move more and more to the in-state. So developing products and pushing products performance capabilities is a huge initiative. The second, sound attenuation, is a big one. We're hearing that from some of the other trends, trying to get products that are sound, knock down the sound. We don't want to hear the noise outside noise control. Thin sightline profiles, we make windows, nobody wants to see them, right? They want to see glass. So big oversized units, large glass lights, definitely a trend. And probably the last one, just on a specific market segment, we're seeing, we've been in the business long enough, both of us, we've heard terms called plastic windows, right?
Yeah.
Sounds crazy, but we're seeing, higher performing vinyl products now being used at, not only low rise, but now mid rise and pushing beyond that. So I see that technology in Europe. We're seeing that, that demand here in the States, and definitely, markets that we're involved in, and we're watching it grow. And, I think if I backed up 5 years ago, vinyl took up, X% of our commercial sales, but that number continues to rise every year. So the market's recognizing it. They see the advantages of it. And so, it's definitely a trend we're seeing as well.
Yeah, Dusty did a nice job of calling that out, and as we talked about the fact that, you know, it was almost like a laughable joke of vinyl being in a 10-story building, and now thanks to the technology like you're putting out here, you know, you can do that. And so real quick, I'm just curious, New York Local Law 97 and also just the laws and ordinances in New York for sound, they seem to be the head of the trend overall of more stringent energy and thermal and sound. You know, it seems like that's something that's going to go everywhere, but it's like reality right now in New York, and I know you guys do quite a bit of business in New York.
Right. I mean, you know, a lot of our product platforms over the years have been, you know, dual glaze products, 1-inch overall, you know, very common glass maker. But every new product we develop now is making provisions for alternate glass packages, wider, thicker glass packages, because we know the demand for triple glazing is increasing, the demand for, you know, larger glass lights, larger air spaces. We don't always want to have to bounce to laminated to achieve a better sound rating. So having a wider glass pocket gives us flexibility to address all those items. And it's, you know, definitely a trend we're seeing.
And I think you have to think that way, because like 8 millimeter is now becoming more prominent, and I've had people say that they won't use 6 mil anymore. Right. They're going strictly to 8 and bigger and to 10. I mean, so you have to have that flexibility, which you guys have, and of course you're thinking outside the box. You've already figured that out, so I should know better. So yeah, we'll keep it rolling. I am thrilled that I get to speak with Chris Dickneite, Director of Commercial Sales at Quaker Window, Quaker Commercial. Again, appreciate your time, appreciate everything you've done for the industry, and I guess as I asked Dusty, was this your first BEC, or had you been to other BECs?
That actually is my first BEC. And
all those years in the industry, you know, I mean, he's a youngster at 17 years in. You've been twice as long, and this is your first one?
Yeah, well, I mean, I will tell you, we did go to a lot of other industry events over the years. Josh, who came in from, you know, another industry stop, you know, strongly encouraged us to get involved in the BEC and network. And I will tell you, we will never miss another one. Wonderful. Just in the one day that I was there, the amount of industry contacts I had always known, and a lot of them I knew, you know, all together in one place. Just an incredible event. We won't miss it again.
Wonderful. Well, I look forward to seeing you again. It's in Vegas this coming year. I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Yeah, enjoyed it. Thank you, Max.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, I hope everyone enjoyed those interviews. Those folks from Quaker, absolutely fantastic. I thank Josh, Dusty, and Chris for your time and hospitality. Tremendous people, tremendous facility. And also a shout out to Jason Pratt, the plant manager there. Old friend and great guy, and doing a fantastic job in that plant at Quaker in Missouri, Quaker Window. So that's it for this month. Or actually, I got another one. I got a mini podcast coming up in a couple weeks. Excited about that. Remember, this podcast was brought to you by Glass Build America. Go online, glassbuild.com, October 18th to the 20th. If you're in this industry, if you're listening to this podcast, you have to be going. If you haven't registered yet, use MaxPod, MAXPOD, as your free ticket in. It's glassbuild.com. All right. Really, last but not least, a quick little note on TV. I got nothing new to give you. I think I'm finally going to jump into Peaky Blinders. Tom O'Malley's been on my case on that for a couple of years, even more so to watch it. I hear great things, so I think I'm going to go down that path this month. But any other ideas, feel free to shoot them to me. I'm always open for it. So anyway, that is it for this edition of From the Fabricator, the edition of Quaker Window. It was a great time. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching, and we'll see you next month.
Oh, the music is stopped.